You're listening to Wild Things and Wild Places, a Muley Fanatic Foundation podcast that aims to discuss issues and efforts related to the Muley Fanatic Foundation mission, the conservation of mule deer, furthering the sport of hunting, and sound wildlife management.
Everybody knows I'm a Muley fanatic.
It's time for Wild Things and Wild Places. And here's your guide, Joshua Corsi.
All right, welcome to Wild Things and Wild Places. Got some great gentlemen here today. We are, just to set the stage of where we are at, we are in Lander, Wyoming at the Lander Community Center, which is an incredible facility. A facility that had burned down, how many years ago, Rowdy?
15, somewhere right in that time frame.
The community rallied together, generated a lot of revenue to build this incredible center. This has been the facility and venue that's been used for the 10 Country chapter event for the last few years, and this is a first-class facility, and we got a first-class guest with us today. We're excited to be able to have Cody Robbins. Cody, welcome.
Thanks for having me, fellas. I'm super excited to come down and be a part of your event. I've heard nothing but great things about it. I'm passionate about mule deer. I'm up in Saskatchewan, Canada, but I've been passionate about mule deer since I was just a little kid. And I'm super excited to come down and share stories with you folks at the banquet. I got to know some of the guys here in November on the Putting You in Hunt program on a hunt with a lady named Adeline Even. I have learned that the people in Wyoming are incredible, and I feel right at home when I'm down here, and I'm excited to be here again.
Well, we're excited to have you. Being that you are from Saskatchewan, live in Saskatoon, is that right?
We live southwest of Saskatoon, about half an hour.
Okay. Big differences that you've noticed between where you live and coming to the States?
No. What I've really enjoyed is the similarities. I enjoyed last fall. I showed up at 2 in the afternoon and joined a whole bunch of folks that had organized a really fun hunt for a young lady. I really appreciated how I felt like I was hunting with people that I'd grown up with and spent my whole life with very quickly. When you're hanging out with folks that are just as passionate as you about hunting and mule deer, I think it's super cool. I love the hospitality that I have absorbed in Wyoming. It's a cool place, and I love the country. Really nice country. Super pretty.
It's a unique thing that it seems like no matter where you are from, if you share the bond and brotherhood or sisterhood of hunting, it's like this an immediate connection of we are one and the same.
It really is.
And I think that's an exceptional quality that just comes with the heritage of hunting. Cody, specific to your involvement and engagement with MFF, I'd like to ask Blake, who's also with us today, and just for the record, those of us that are sitting around a cooler pretending it's a campfire since we're inside and it's snowy outside, Blake Fiegler, co-chair with the Rowdy Anderson of the 10 Country chapter, Joey Fagel from MFF headquarters, and then Cody. But Blake, you were really the facilitator that allowed for this relationship in its early stages to begin to blossom. And I do say blossom because I think that's the right adjective of what I feel this connection with Cody has become. I wasn't able to make that hunt last fall because of some personal issues that came up, but in driving home, Cody and I got to visit on the phone, and I could hear it in his voice, the genuineness of, hey, this was a great experience here with the 10 Country guys. I feel like I could go any day with these guys and go hunting, and it's like I've known them for years. But it was the passion for mule deer and the wanting to further his effort to help Muley Fanatic Foundation and our mission that just, it really stood out as something that was very sincere. And for that, I think, Blake, we're going to always be in debt to you to be able to bring that connectivity with Cody together. But let's talk about it, how it started, because that was pretty cool. You and I have talked about it, but we should share it with others, because you were even surprised yourself.
Right, absolutely. Like, for how much has happened in the last 13 months, it almost feels that should have happened in 10 years. The relationship we built, the bonds we've created, and where we're at now compared to 13 months ago when I met Cody, like I said, it feels like that should have been something that happened over a lifetime, not just in a little over a year.
So I'm just trying to picture how this went down, just to let others know. You seen Cody, you got all excited, you started to have what some would have maybe called a seizure, and approached.
That's what he might like to think, yeah. He's not Jim Shockey.
and you went with your Sharpie, and you started to lift up your shirt. No.
No, I will admit, though, I'm not really. I went to the hunting expo in Salt Lake last year in February.
Right.
And I'm not really one of those guys that like
Get
seek out to go meet the influencers and get signatures or not. But I follow Cody on social media, and I saw that he was going to be at the expo. And that was the same day I was going to be there. I'm like, I'm going to make it a point to go to that booth during that hours he was there and meet him and just talk mule deer. And this was February, which we had our banquet last March 18th last year. So it would have been, a little over a month before our banquet last year. And we had Jim Shockey coming, and I know he had a connection with Jim Shockey. So I said, hey, what are the odds you come and make a surprise visit at our banquet and give Jim Shockey a hard time? And he said, well, I can't do that. That's only a month away, and schedules don't allow. So I'm like, well, maybe next year you can come to our banquet and be our speaker. Before that, we just talked mule deer for 30, 40 minutes. We talked different organizations. We talked his frustrations, the decline of mule deer, everything mule deer really related, the highs, the lows, what we're passionate about, hunting, conservation, all these things. And I bet we talked for 30, 40 minutes, and that's all it took for him to give me his cell phone number, his personal cell phone number, and say, call or text anytime. I'd love to come to your banquet. And that's how the connection started. A few weeks later, I texted him and said, can we confirm that you will be our guest speaker next year? And he said, yep, absolutely. So we put it on our program that Jim Shockey's pretty cool, but next year we're going to have the biggest name in the mule deer hunting world in our program. And that's led us to this point right here.
Yeah, that's a great story. I think it's really cool just how the universe just makes these type of opportunities and really just aligns with really putting the right people in the right place at the right time. We've seen that over the last 12 years. Joey and I have on countless accounts where things just seem to have a higher power in play that is helping facilitate the movement and direction. Rowdy, you and I have talked several times about the importance of being able to have an ambassador for MFF, somebody who has a larger presence and a larger stage that can really help us facilitate an outreach effort to really engage more people to what MFF is doing, how we're furthering the mission. I think this is going to be an incredible relationship moving forward. In visiting with Cody on how that would look for him to take on that role as an ambassador for MFF, the one thing that stood out to all of us at headquarters in that virtual meeting we had was Cody right out of the gate saying, I'm not interested in doing this 1 year. I want this to be something that is long term. This is my love of mule deer and my effort to help in furthering the mission that's supporting what I love and embodies my passion. And Cody, I think it would be probably pretty important for you to just talk about just a little bit of background. And I know there's a lot to it because this is a lifetime of work, but I've seen that video when you were with your grandmother shooting that deer with your bow as a young man. You were like at the very beginning stages of puberty.
Yeah, I could barely pull a bow back with the legal weight for archery. But thinking about mule deer, they have had such an amazing impact on my life. I fell in love with bow hunting when I was 12 years old. My grandmother was my guardian. I shared that story last night at the VIP thing that we held. I don't know where I would be today if it wasn't for mule deer and whitetails, but Saskatchewan is a very special province and we have very special opportunities at mule deer. We have great genetics, healthy herds, or we always have had healthy herds throughout the years. And I sit in bed at night sometimes and wonder where I would be, where my life would have taken me if I didn't fall in love with the sport of bow hunting and the opportunities that I've been given in mule deer country. And it feels like there's been a void. It's kept escalating. My love for mule deer has escalated for a long time now. But the last 5 or 10 years, it feels like there's been something missing. I feel like I owe mule deer so much. They've done so much for me, and I just feel like I need to do more for them. And I didn't know what that void was. But I've been hunting more for a relationship than even a big buck anymore. A relationship where I can hang out with the right people and help the species across the board. I feel with the luck that I've had and the doors that have opened for me, that my voice, carries pretty far and wide now in the mule deer circle. And I want to be able to share that power of that voice in whatever I can do to better mule deer habitat, do whatever I possibly can. And when Blake came to me at the Utah show, we just connected. I was like, holy smokes, there's the guy I've been looking for. There's the organization that I've hoped to stumble onto. And I wasn't familiar with the operation that you guys had at the time. I wasn't familiar with MFF. I'm very grateful that Blake informed me what you guys were all about. And I remember Blake, after I met him in person, he called me on the phone and we had a conference call with Rowdy and Blake a month or two after that. We were solidifying our plan for me to come and be your guest speaker here. And I can't remember if you guys hung up and then called me back. But then the topic came up. You guys said, hey, we have a really special hunt in November. It's for a child and we're taking her hunting. She's got a situation health-wise. And we want this hunt to be special for her. Would you consider coming? And my original thought was, well, I got my whole fall planned. Like I plan my trips and everything strategically with weapons, and I have different places and I have to perform, and I have to have a gun hunt for my gun sponsors. I have to have a bow hunt for my bow sponsors. I have obligations to outfitters. And I just initially right out of the gate, I was like, oh yeah, maybe the year after that, or maybe down the road, maybe we could organize something like that. I already planned my fall. And right on the phone while they were coming back at me with their thoughts on it, in my head, I just went to a blur. I got thinking, what could I possibly be doing those 5 days that could be more important than taking a kid hunting? I've learned in my career, the greatest things that have happened in my life are selfless acts by other people that have given me the chance to fall in love with hunting. My grandmother, that I shared with you guys last night. When I was 13 years old, if I didn't have a guardian to go and sit with me in that blind, and I didn't have the chance to shoot that deer with a bow and arrow, and I didn't fall in love with all of this at that time, where would I be right now, right? So throughout my career, I've made a point of hunting with kids. I'm not a TV show host that travels around and pumps my fist and shoots deer after deer for myself. I have learned that the best hunts that I do are the ones that I share with kids, or people. They don't have to be kids. They can be grown men our age that haven't had the chance to take in amazing hunting experiences like we get to. Like I'm sure all of us in this circle have made a point of creating good hunting opportunities for ourselves. Well, there's people out there that love hunting as much as we do, or they would love hunting as much as we do, but they don't get the chance. Maybe they put their family first. Maybe they work 6 days a week, they have 1 day off, and that 1 day off, they go home and they work hard around their house and they do things for their family to make sure they provide. They don't have the chance to fall in love with a giant mule deer and spend 40 days a year watching that buck and doing what it takes to shoot a giant buck and falling in love with the sport that we love so much. And I have learned I can spend that time in the field and I can recruit and adopt buddies or kids or old folks, and I can take them and I can share those amazing experiences, like those Super Bowl winning experiences on a giant deer with drop tines with a guy that wouldn't otherwise have the chance. And I've learned that you're doing more for yourself in those moments than you could be doing if you're going hunting another buck. I just feel like it's so important, and it brought me back to what's really important in that conversation. I canceled the plans that I had, and I wanted to come and hunt with this young lady. I didn't know her name yet at the time. I didn't really know these gentlemen. I'd never met Rowdy, but I could tell that they stood for all the things that are good in hunting. And I was really excited to cancel my plans and come down and hang out with these guys and go on that hunt. And fast forward to November, I came down here.
14-hour drive.
14-hour drive. Within 10 minutes of being here, I met Rowdy. I met one of Rowdy's kids. I met Rowdy's cousin. And I felt...
Which child did you meet? Do you remember?
Which one did I meet? Both.
Mason. And my nephew, Bo.
I was like, if he would have met
Bo.
Creed, he may have.
and right out of the gate, I'm like, so Rowdy introduces me to these two kids, and they're good-looking kids. They got broad shoulders, they got big muscles, and I'm looking at Rowdy, and I'm like, well, they must be adopted, right? There's no way.
They totally
Rowdy
take after his wife.
Yeah, for sure. No, within 2 minutes, I felt like these were guys I had grown up with. They were my kind of people. They have the same passions, the same love. It's just been such an awesome experience hanging out with you guys and feeling like you fit. And I feel like I'm on the right path now with the passion that I have for mule deer and the hope to do better for mule deer or give back to mule deer. I feel like I've found that path, and I'm really excited to be involved with you guys.
Yeah, we are too. And I can tell you, and Joey, I'd like you to maybe talk a little bit on this, because we've talked at the office internally many times over the last 12 years about having the model that MFF has that is so unique in the conservation community that gives so much local control to make a local difference in the backyard of our chapters, where they're engaged and involved in the allocation process to the projects that are near and dear to them and their community. This model, after being in the conservation community prior to establishing our own organization, was so unique. It's, man, how is this elevated to the next level in its broad reach of people that, if they understood what this was about, would not want to adopt and implore this into their own area that love mule deer as well. And we've recognized for a long time, Rowdy, you and I have had these conversations, like, when can we find that right outreach or individual to help carry that message further that has the ability to have a large and broad audience? And Joey, I think even 3 years ago, we put together a list of potential people that if we could just have these conversations with, and Cody was on that list. weird how it's come to be now. But when we started talking about this internally after last fall with his involvement and engagement with the Putting the U in Hunt program, that there's still some reservations about everything that is done within the organization to bring in somebody from the outside that really may not understand the nuances and the challenges and the journey that MFF has been on. And then to be able to have someone try to be that voice for something that maybe doesn't have 12 years of intimate knowledge to, there's some reservations internally.
I knew of Cody just from following him on social media too and watching some of his shows. And then when Blake announced that he was coming to this event, I felt I was really excited to really get to know and see how Cody, his passion for mule deer, how true it is. And we talked, and I had to listen to your voice and your story myself. And when we had that video conference call, we knew right away, halfway through the conversation, it was like, no doubt, this is the guy that we need. This is the person that we were looking for to be an ambassador for MFF. He's got the same passion that all of us do. I could see why Blake brought him on, because Blake is there too, Rowdy's there. That's why this chapter itself is so great, is because of the passion that these two have. Now they found the guy that could really be huge for us. Thank you, Blake, Rowdy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the way this thing is going, and that's how this organization has always worked, is we find those things like just out of the blue. It just follows into the right path. The Lord has just blessed this organization so much that it's just amazing what we get into and just the relationships we build over and over. And I just think this is going to be powerful, and our direction of this organization is just going to grow. Thank you, Cody. Really appreciate it. And I'm really excited for the future of all of us right now.
I am too, Joey. Thank you very much. I'm very excited for the opportunity.
I think that's what stood out to us, and you just touched on it, was obviously we've always recognized that there is our faith that has guided this, and those opportunities and blessings that have come to allow for the organization to grow the way it has. And what stood out to us, Cody, in that virtual meeting was really your groundedness to not only your genuine love for mule deer, but then your family, your wife and your daughters running around behind you in the meeting and then saying hi, and dad letting the youngest on your lap, and then grabbing that computer and like, here, let's go look at my basement, after we were like, what's in the background? Like, give us the tour, man. It was like, okay, this is not somebody who's
this
just
isn't just
checking
a business talk right now. This is a family kind of conversation, and that's what just really won me over. It was just, this is what you need right here.
Well, and then trying to work out what were some of the potential deliverables that could be arranged for Cody's alignment and interest in aligning with us. Is it wasn't about a numbers thing. It wasn't about, well, we want to be able to grow this and this. It was, we really just want quality passion, like people who are genuinely embodied to want to do this because it's something inside that says, I find fulfillment and satisfaction in being able to give back and help the resource that means so much to me. And it's very evident, it's very clear that means a lot to you. I think we're all grateful for the opportunity. I think moving forward, there's some exciting things that are being planned. I think that's going to be exciting for folks to be able to learn and watch and see it unfold. Cody, your story of now being able, you have the coolest job in the world, short of being the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh,
I mean,
I don't get sacked.
Here we go.
I
You don't
get
get
body
sacked.
checked. Nothing happens to this pretty face. I'm just good.
But when you look at your career now, being able to make your income and it become your profession and your livelihood, being able to hunt, it's a cool story in itself. I'm curious if you want to just share briefly, you take that image of you as a 13-year-old sticking your first deer with your bow and arrow, and then how that moved forward and the opportunity presented itself. Because it sounds like a lot of doors of opportunity have also just opened at the right time, at the right place for you to be able to even align yourself with Jim Shockey and then travel the globe and be all over this entire planet hunting and harvesting and sharing shoulder to shoulder with a guy like Jim. That's a cool story in itself. How did that become?
Looking back at my career, sometimes I think, man, I've worked my ass off to get where I am. But at the end of the day, I don't think it came down to work. I think it just came down to, I was incredibly passionate about something, and a lot of things just happened by accident. I feel like I've just been one of those individuals that's just, so many times in my life I've been proud of something or thought of something that I've maybe accomplished, or an old photo or something, And I've been incredibly lucky, so lucky. Someone asked me yesterday, they said, how did you get the job as Jim Shockey's cameraman? He wasn't looking for a cameraman. He wasn't advertising for a cameraman. I never thought it would even be an option. It wasn't like I was sending Jim Shockey a resume. It just fell into place, just the right crossroad at the right time. I fell in love with bow hunting when I was a teenager. When I was 19 years old, I had this vision to create hunting videos. And I worked 2 jobs. I worked day shift, night shift, and when hunting season came, I quit both of those jobs. I took the money that I had and I bought a professional video camera. And my plan was to film that fall, capture enough content to make a hunting video, and then buy a full-page ad in Eastman's Journal or a full-page ad in Big Buck Magazine, my favorite hunting magazines, and try and sell those videos out of my parents' house with an address. And I was filming for 5 weeks. I barely had any footage that anybody would want to see, working my ass off, and I realized how hard it was to get content that people would really be entertained with. It's hard. You know, as a hunter, it's hard to go out there and shoot a big buck with your bow, let alone go out there and film 10 big bucks or the hunt for 10 big bucks in a year and capture it on film and capture the audio and everything that you need. I was failing miserably, but I did film a giant whitetail buck. Jim Shockey came to Saskatchewan. Long story short, Jim Shockey wanted to hunt that buck that I got footage of. He asked a mutual friend if there was any way he could meet this kid that got footage of this big deer. It turned into Jim offering me a job part-time just to come and film him hunting that particular buck if I would show him where that deer lived. I took him, I showed him where the deer lived, turned into a cameraman job for a month, which turned a month later into Jim offering me a job as his full-time cameraman and editor. And I got to follow Jim around the world for 7 years. I started his TV show with him. It was a dream come true. It wasn't something that I sought out or thought that a kid could even plan that. It just happened. And it was super cool. Jim taught me work ethic. He taught me the ins and outs of our industry, having a hunting television show, the marketing side of it. Incredibly lucky. I don't think I appreciated it as much as I should have at the time. Jim was like a grumpy old school teacher, or he was like a hard ass of a football coach. He didn't accept 100%. You had to give him 110% every single day. And I don't think I was the kind of guy that gave things 110% until I met him. But I knew that I wanted to keep my job and I didn't want to get fired. And the values that he instilled in me over that 7 years gave me the chance to be who I needed to be to start my own TV show 15 years ago and get my own TV show on the Outdoor Channel. And just, I'm so grateful for the things that he taught me and the time that I had with him. It was super cool stuff. Like, he was not my hero when I was his cameraman. He was an ogre. He was the guy, he was a mean boss. I would go home and complain about him. Once I wasn't working for him again and I was on the sidelines again, watching him and his career and watching his accomplishments, he was my hero again. And I couldn't even believe that at one time I was his wingman and got to follow him around the world and film his hunts. It was a super special thing for a person to be able to experience. And it's just one of the things that I've been so lucky to have in my life. I started my show 15 years ago. I wouldn't say I was failing, but there was really no way for me, or it seemed like there was no way for me to get my show on in the United States. I had my show on in Canada on the Canadian network, but the market isn't big enough to have a family, provide for your family, and do a good job producing 13 original episodes. Jim Shockey calls me after 3 years. Hadn't talked to him. There was hard feelings between us. I quit working for him. It was awkward. I missed the guy. His name pops up on my phone. I answer it. He says, "Code, I just watched 2 of your episodes on Canadian TV, and you're killing it, man. It's awesome. I'm so proud of you." And I knew that was probably really hard for him to say because I quit working for him. I became his competition. He called me and gave me that compliment, and he said, "If you follow my lead, I'll help you get on American television on the Outdoor Channel." And he opened a whole bunch of doors for me. His marketing team marketed the show. They signed on a bunch of great sponsors out of the gate and signed my contract with the Outdoor Channel, and it was a Jim Shockey production. I was still building my own show and doing all the work, but then Jim put his name on it, and it's crazy how many doors opened when Jim put his name on my show, and it got me started in the States. And now I've been on in the United States this is our 14th season. After 3 years with Jim, he cut me loose and set me free again. And I had my wings. I had my flying wings, and I was able to keep the show going. And there's been so many times in my career where it easily could have gone the other way, where, you know what, my career came to an end, and it just kept escalating and kept escalating. And a lot of it, I think, was luck. And I'm grateful for all of the experiences that I've had in my life, and I'm super grateful for Jim. He's a great dude, and he's definitely been there to catch me on the most important days in my career and make sure that I keep cruising. So grateful for him.
That's a great story, Cody. When you talk about someone being an ambassador for the heritage of hunting, he's iconic in that regard. Just the notoriety of him and the impacts and the success that he has had to promote hunting has been an enormous thing. Have you found in all of the travels, and then some of the differences between maybe Canada and the United States, do you feel like the hunting heritage is as big as people think it is? Or do you think it's actually just a very tight-knit group of people that really has a lot of work to do to maintain this heritage and to continue to further it in a responsible and stewardship way?
I think we're a very tight-knit group. It's crazy how you can connect with someone so quickly and feel like you've known them your whole entire life. But I also think we have a lot of work to do to keep promoting the good in hunting. I think ladies, we're lucky to have Eva Shockey as a mainstream lady hunter that has the parts, the balls to go up in front of the mainstream crowd and make hunting cool and make it okay to be a lady hunter. 20 years down the road, I think all of us men, we need to keep doing what we're doing and do a better job of it and a better job of it every single day to promote hunting, promote the good in hunting. And I think it's the same with the ladies in hunting, with my wife, Kelsey, with Eva, with whatever ladies are willing to stand up and be an ambassador and be a role model to young ladies, to older ladies that want to try hunting. I don't think our work is ever going to be done. I think we need to stay focused, and as much as we go out and just want to enjoy mule deer and wildlife, we also need to be conscious of the role models we are and conscious of the word we spread on and what hunting really truly is. I don't think our work is ever going to be done.
Join us next week for part 2 with Cody Robbins of Live to Hunt with Cody and Kelsey. And that wraps up another episode of Wild Things and Wild Places. But remember, the journey doesn't end here. Make sure you never miss out by subscribing. Whether you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, streaming us on our website, or following us on social media, subscribing is the best way to stay connected. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for more wild episodes.
Everybody knows I'm a muley fanatic.